This is a Hayworth Oral History Project 2012 interview with Kenneth Edward Slayback, which is taking place at 403 East Main Street, Hayworth, on Friday, August the 3rd, 2012. My name is Richard Gray and I'm the interviewer for this session. We'll begin with a few questions, Kenny, about you and your earliest connections with the Hayworth area. How long have you lived here in Hayworth, Kenny?
I came up here when I was about 3 years old, I guess. 3 or 4. I just can't remember which it was. Either 3 or 4 years old.
And where'd you come from?
Wapella.
Wapella. And were your parents both Wapella residents?
Yeah, both of them born and raised in Wapella.
Born and raised in Wapella. Where did your mother's family come from?
Kentucky.
The Rouseys came from Kentucky. And the Slaybacks, where did
Ohio.
They were Ohio people. Why did your family move to Hayworth, Kenny?
My dad, for work.
For
There's
work.
more work up here than there was in Wapella.
What kind of work did he do?
Well, he was a plaster and laid brick and stuff like mason.
He was a mason.
Right.
And you kind of followed in his footsteps, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
All of your life, you were a great mason and bricklayer. Do you remember your grandparents very much?
My grandma Rousey, I remember real well, because I'd go on the Interviewee with Mom when I was a little kid, and we'd stay down there all day long. And I love my grandma Rousey. Now my grandma Slayback, I don't remember too much.
Okay, that's interesting. Tell me about your family. Did you have any brothers and sisters?
Oh yeah, Jim, Paul, Donald, Biff, and Freddie.
And then what about sisters?
Laverne and Wanda.
So there were 8 in your family.
Yeah, 8 in her family.
And Kenny, there's an interesting story about when your father passed away, and then later on your brother was born 2 weeks later. Tell me a little bit about that.
Freddie was born 2 weeks after Dad died. And I can't remember too much about it, really.
But you had a remarkable mother, didn't you?
Oh, my Lord, I had the best mom ever lived. She was a praying mother. She was a praying mother. That's what got her to get by. My mom was a prayer. Boy, she wasn't afraid to get down and pray to the Lord. And another thing, she wasn't afraid to get the peach switch and whip you. When you got out of line, you knew you was going to get it. So she pretty well kept us in line. Yeah, I'd say, Mom, this hurts. You whip hard. She said, Kenny, it hurts me more than it does you. Now, she'd say that every time. This hurts me more than it does you. And I actually believe it did. I believe it did hurt her more than me, because she didn't want to whip me, but she drove that meanness out of me, I'll tell you. She drove her out. Oh, my gosh, yes.
But Kenny, tell me about the neighbor families. Did you have a lot of neighbors that you played with and things?
Oh, yes, the Masters. Miss Masters was a very religious lady, and she was a very good church lady. She went to Bloomington Church somewhere, and she'd have us kids over for Bible study. Oh, we had a lot of Bible study there at the Master's house. Oh, my gosh, yes. She was a real Christian lady, Miss Masters was. And she helped out Mom a lot, too.
Good.
She sure did. Yeah.
Who were some of your other neighbors? Did the Coomers live close by?
Coomers lived across the street. And Uncle Cease and Aunt Maud lived across the road.
Were the Shannons in the neighborhood?
Shannons, yes, they lived right across the alley. And the Moits. And the Hoyts, the Van Baileys lived right in this block, just right by me.
And Kenny, you lived in that house
And
until...
the Coomers.
And the Coomers.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And you lived in that same house until you went to the Navy when
Yes, yes.
when you got out of high school.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about high school. I know you were in sports a lot.
Yeah. I was never one of them. I loved them all. Yeah, some of them would come to see Mom. And where's Kenny? Said, well, he's over there at the high school. that all he does? She said, leave him alone. Leave him alone. Said, let him enjoy his life while he's young. Mom stood up for me. Yeah, she was my strong defender, my mom was. Oh, yeah.
Did you win any awards in your sports?
Oh.
What about the pole vaulting? Didn't you win some awards?
Yeah, I won the county pole vault championship either 2 or 3 years.
How about swimming? Did you ever swim?
I didn't swim much, but I did swim in VFW. They had, and we went to Champaign over to Urbana University, and we swam over there. Oh yeah, I loved to swim. I was a good swimmer. All of us was, but Jim. Jim was afraid of water.
He was afraid of the water.
Paul could swim like a fish. And all the rest of us could swim good. Well, Dad, I can remember when I was just a little old kid, he'd put me on his back and take me out there to the Red Bridge out there, and there'd be all kinds of people from Bloomington used to come down there to swim. Yeah, and I'd be hanging on to his back right out there. Oh, I love to swim.
Well, Kenny, I heard that there was an incident with you and Merle Simpkins, that you saved his life.
Yeah, I can't hardly remember it, but I did. Yeah, Merle, he...
Was it out at the gravel pit?
Yeah, I dove in and brought him in.
And you dove in and brought him in, and what happened to him? He broke his neck, didn't he?
Broke his neck. Yeah, he dove in. I forget who it was now, but this one guy was standing at the bottom. You know how when you get out and you get your feet cleaned, you know, and Merle got behind him and dove over him. And he hollered at him just as he got over him. This guy raised up, threw him right down there on the bottom of the pit, and broke his neck. I dove in and got him out.
And Merle never forgot that, I'm sure, did he? What you did to save his life.
Oh, he carried a neck brace for years, Merle did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, what was Main Street like in Hayworth back when you were a child? Did it look much different than it does today?
Well, yeah, it did. It looked like when you get an old-time movie, like a Main Street. That's what it looked like. Yeah.
Did they have a grocery store?
Oh, gosh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Rube Clark and Ab Benton.
Did your parents do most of their grocery shopping here in Hayworth?
No, they did most in Bloomington.
In Bloomington.
Go in on the weekend.
Did your folks have a truck or a car?
Dad always had a Model A.
Had a Model A, and they drove in. And what store did they go to in Bloomington?
Piggly Wiggly.
Piggly Wiggly.
Is that phone ringing?
Yeah, it's okay. Did you ride in with them, or did you kids stay home when they went in?
Well, I went with them once in a while.
Uh-huh.
I went with them more than the rest of them. Oh, yeah, I like to go with them.
And Kenny, when you got out of high school, you went right into the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And how long were you in the Navy?
I did almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years. And where did you serve mainly?
Well, Great Lakes and California and down in all the Southwest Pacific, clean down to Australia, New Guinea, up the Philippines. Yeah.
And then you came back to the California area on the way back after the war?
Yeah.
Is that where you married Shirley?
No, married her here.
You married Shirley here in
Yeah.
Hayworth?
Yeah. Yeah, she's the only girl I ever had.
The only girl you ever dated?
Never had time for girls. I was always playing sports. And she's the only girl I ever had. Yeah.
And you got married, and then you lived in California for just a little while, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Lived in San Francisco. Yeah.
And then you came back to Hayworth, and you, before too awful long, you bought this house here on Main Street, didn't you?
Uh-huh.
And you've lived here all these years.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I bought this house off of Jack Davis. That's Cletus' dad. He lived next door.
Yes.
He owned that house, and he owned this in here. So yeah, I bought this off of him. Yeah.
Did Hayworth ever have a movie theater or show movies?
Gosh, yes. Right up on the corner. Right up on the corner was a movie theater, and before that, it was down in there where the Legion building's at. They always had movies, yeah.
And that was something for the young people to do.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, they always had movies.
Did you have family chores when you were growing up, Kenny?
Oh, gosh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of chores to do. Now, Fuzzy, he kind of wouldn't do too much. And Biff never done an awful lot. I done more chores than either one of them did.
How did you earn any spending money, Kenny? Or was that kind of hard to come by?
Yes, I don't. Gosh, I didn't have very much, I'll tell you. I did not have very much. Yeah.
Do you recall Randolph and Light Ave when you were growing up?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. I remember Randolph, the Light Ave school, my dad built it. And when I was a kid, I went out there with him all day, and I'd play in the sand while he was building that building. My dad built that building, that Randolph. Lightaville, rather.
At Lightaville.
Yes, he did. And one thing I remember about my dad would go swimming a lot. And he'd always put me on my back when I was a little kid. I was never scared of the water. Never scared of the water.
Well, that was good for you going into the Navy then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think some of your other brothers went into the Navy and to the services too, didn't they?
All but Jim.
All but Jim.
He was 4F. He had heart problems when he was in school, and he couldn't go. All the rest of us went.
The rest of you did. Kenny, I know you're 87 years old. When you were a child, did you have indoor plumbing or did you have an outhouse?
Outhouse.
Oh, you did. So
yes, sir.
You remember that then?
Oh, gosh, yes.
What about, we've talked about your schooling, and we talked about the Navy, and about you married Shirley, and you and Shirley have been married well over 60 years, about 67 years probably, haven't you? And I know you had some pets, didn't you? Different animals that you liked over.
Yeah. Yeah. She always had a little. I can't remember whether there's cats or dogs now.
Dogs, I think.
I think there was.
Had lots of dogs that she liked.
Yeah.
Did you ever live on a farm? I don't think you did you?
No. But I had Dad had a sister that had a big farm just outside of Waynesville, and we used to go down there a lot in the summer.
Did you, or do you remember any special people in Hayworth when you were growing up? Some of the older ones when you were growing up, maybe that you'd like to talk about just a little bit. Do you remember Laddie Wiseman?
Oh my gosh, yes. Laddie and Jim was just like that.
What about Bob Nichols and Al Geske?
Yes.
You knew those fellas.
Oh my gosh, yes.
They were well-known people.
Yeah, well, yeah, I got along good with all them people.
Good, good.